you Dr. Reyes, because I don't have that title.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So, Miss Reyes, so this meeting is about the pop cycle, pre-observation, observation, post-observation. The idea is really, the whole idea is that we really need good systematic ways to improve instruction in schools. And the idea of leaving teachers to their own discretion is gone. It's not going to ever come back. And schools are moving more towards, videotaping teachers and working kind of like sports. What we've been doing forever in sports. You film a practice, you sit with your coach, and you work through your technique or whatever. At least in the higher level sports, that's what's done. So, in some regards, teaching has finally caught up to that. And so, in Texas is its own state, and there's a lot more schools in Texas that are videotaping teachers and all that stuff. I know that's probably not happening a whole lot at this school, right? But so anyways, this cycle involves 3 components: the pre-observation and post-observation. There's a rubric, and I sent you a bunch of stuff on this stuff to kind of catch up to speed. So today's meeting is really for you to brief me on really what you're going to be. So what am I going to observe when I come to observe your class next week, either Thursday or Friday? Okay, it's a third. Imagine we talked about it being your third period class. So today I'm going to ask you some questions, and then I really want to kind of just have you do the majority of the talking, and I'll just kind of guide through questions. Okay. I'll say one more thing, and then I'll be quiet. What I want to say is that in the right kind of coaching is a blend between light coaching and heavy coaching. And what they mean by light coaching is like it's all about fluffy, soft, I like you, you like me, you feel good, I feel good, but you don't get to the nitty gritty. So as a leader, in terms of trying to change a school, I know one day you're going to be a principal and leading these schools and stuff, it's got to get past just this fluff stuff. At the same time, heavy coaching could be heavy-handed, it could be top-down, and it could, and if, in an extreme sense, it could even be, it could go the wrong way, right? You lose the trust of the person that you're with if it's 100% just, if it's not handled right. So the idea here is that there's got to be a blend between the relationship building, there's got to be good solid trust, and then at the same time you got to be looking at the data and figuring out if the instruction is getting results or not. So I'm going to aim at that middle ground, although I'll tell you what I told Miss Campbell, that I am really hesitant because I don't know you guys and I don't have a relationship yet with you. And if I did, it'd be different. There'd be trust, we could move along, but we don't. And so I'm reluctant. So I'm going to aim at the middle, but I'm going to start kind of on the light side.
I'm going to tell you can go hard.
I can go hard? Okay, great. Okay, cool. All right, so first I got a series of questions, and it's all based on the rubric that we're going to be covering from the pop cycle. First question is just tell me what period are we going to be covering, and then also tell me what do you know about the kids in this class?
Okay, it's going to be,
No, we're good.
It's going to be third period. I know I'm just now really looking at this data and seeing a whole bunch of no's as far as who passed last year as 7th graders. There's only 4 kids out of this class who passed.
What's the total number of kids in the class?
I believe there's 19. No, this shows 18.
So 18 or 19, or 18. And 4 passed the STAR. What subject is it?
Math.
What subject within math? Is it algebra? Is it math 8?
Yeah, it says math 8.
Math 8, okay. So in your school at Dunbar, the top end of the class are placed in algebra, or do you have 0 8th graders in algebra?
No, we have some 8th graders in algebra, and it's the top.
Okay, it's like the top 10% are in algebra. So is there a low math 8 version, or is it just everybody else is?
There's fundamental math.
Fundamental math for special ed kids. But the majority of regular ed kids are going to be in math 8 regardless.
That's
so
right.
your range is going to be wide?
Yes.
Okay.
We have incredibly low. I'm talking like 2nd grade level because they took the math test and those with the scores. So we got like 2nd grade level up to we've got like a freshman, the highest 9th grade level that's in regular math.
So you have some kids that really ought to be challenged in algebra.
Absolutely, but they got kicked out for silly reasons.
For behavior reasons.
Yeah, and maybe not even behavior reasons, but
yeah. So there's a wide range, and you have 19 kids, and 4 out of your 19 passed the test last year.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
it's surprising to you because
it's surprising to me because these kids are smart.
They're smart. They
smart.
can do it.
They can do it. I've seen them do it.
Perfect. Okay.
So.
Okay. So in terms of demographics, tell me gender demographics. What's your class like?
Okay. As far as the blacks, African Americans, we're looking at 44%. Hispanics are 50%. White is 6%.
So a mix of 50-50, and then you might have one kid
Yeah.
that is white.
Really though, she's not white.
She's not.
She's not. She's Hispanic, so it's 50-50.
Okay, so it's 50-50.
Females, 67%. Males are 33%.
So 2/3 of your class are females, and 1/3 is males. And does that factor into how you teach it all, like the gender? Does that change the dynamic in your class?
Sometimes I don't feel. Sometimes like males. Oh, I would rather teach girls than boys.
Behavior-wise.
And maybe not just behavior, but it's part of it. Yeah, especially in junior high, boys no. But sometimes they can surprise me. Certain classes the girls have a higher percentage, and other classes the boys have a higher percentage.
Right.
So it just depends. It's just the dynamic of the kids.
Okay.
So.
And give me some background on your school, real quick. Okay, so we got the demographics. 19 kids, 50-50 split. So the majority of your kids are below basic.
Right.
So the skills are real low, although they're smart. So there's a gap between how they're performing on assessments and what you're seeing them do every day. There's a major gap there. You know that they're more capable than how they're performing. But tell me, overall, your school has gone through a transition, and I'm not sure how has that affected the psychology of the group, the kids, the interactions? 8 teachers left the first month, new principal, 4 principals in 4 years. What's that done? You've been here the entire time.
I have been.
What's that done to the psychology of the kids? What's going on with them?
I think right now, in terms of respect, as far as authority and stuff, they kind of don't really have a whole lot of respect, and so they feel like they run it. They can do what they want to do. There's no consequences, real consequences, and so at times it can be challenging in the classroom as far as managing, the kids' behavior. Sometimes there's not support. Like if we send them out, sometimes certain teachers aren't supported, and they get sent right back, or they don't follow through with the punishment, so
and that
affects
your ability to run a group,
to be able to come in and manage your class and teach.
So student engagement on a scale from 1 to 10, low achievers, this crazy transition that's gone on at the school, and sometimes lack of support, the inconsistency, them sensing blood, smelling blood, 8 teachers leaving, people coming and going, what are you seeing in terms of you've done this before? You can engage, you can use reverse psychology, you use humor, and you probably get them going. But is it still challenging with their engagement? Are you having a hard time engaging them in work? Math is about hard work.
Yes, absolutely. Especially at this point of the year. I mean, we're almost done. But a lot, especially like my lower level kids, I struggle with being able to teach at a low level, and. So
fire drill.
The fire drill. So
well, let's just go for a couple minutes.
After you close that, can you pause that?
You said.
I'll
give you my word on this. The only person that's going to see this. Let's do
Continue.
that over again. Tell me about the school's gone through sort of this phase of changing administration. It's gone through. What I heard was 8 teachers. You guys reconstituted the school last year. Half the teachers were retained. The better half were retained supposedly, and the new teachers were paid more money to come. So high caliber teachers were recruited, not just a bunch of new people. In theory. But we also heard that 8 teachers left, and so I'm just curious in terms of, even though you've done this a while and you have probably good rapport with kids and you use humor and all that, I'm curious, just before we get into this, is how do you feel this year compares to previous years in terms of engaging this group of kids?
It's been a challenge to engage the kids, just because classroom management sometimes, or even in the hallways, classroom management isn't that big of an issue because I'm pretty firm with the kids. But in terms of like the hallway coming in, with that hot mess into the classroom, just calming them down, that's been a challenge. So, and also just so many changes. I was out for the first 6 weeks because I'm a baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so before I even got here, there's so many different changes in terms of just how they eat breakfast, where they sit in the morning, all these different things had taken place. The schedules themselves, like so many changes have taken place. And which is tough on these kids, especially our kids. But they're adjusting, and so...
They're adjusting.
It's just at times.
It's been a tough year. And would you say you've been at this school 5 years? So in terms of 5 years, you've gone through 4 principals in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you compare this year in terms of kids and engagement compared to the other years? On a scale from 1 to 10, or if you were to, rank the 5 years, would you say that this has been the most challenging year, or somewhere in the middle?
Not the most challenging, no. I would say last year.
Challenging
year
last year
was more challenging. Yes. This year, I think our leadership is better than what it was last year. Not the best, no. To me,
yeah.
My 3rd year here was the absolute best.
Your 3rd year.
Mm-hmm. That's when we actually first implemented the Granger model. So it was good. It was cake.
It was
it was like, man, I can teach these kids, and it was good.
Yeah.
The discipline was down, and it was great. It was a great year.
You saw hope. You saw light at the end of the tunnel.
And you enjoy coming to work. Like, yeah.
Well, and speak to me about that, because one of the things I keep arguing with the Granger model, and I'm just going to veer off for a second, is there's a national concern about teacher retention in high poverty schools. Mm-hmm. And it's not a East Lubbock problem, it's a country problem, right? And there's a lot of different thinking about how to retain good teachers, how to recruit and retain them. And the predominant thought out there is to dangle a carrot, more money.
Right.
Well, you guys dangled the carrot and you lost 8 teachers. So I'm curious to get your perspective, because I keep arguing that they're leaving based on what I know, my experience, and based on the research I've read, is I believe that they're leaving because they're fleeing, not because the kids are minority or poor, but because the environment's toxic. And I'm curious to get your feedback on that.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, the money brought them here, but the environment, as far as the support, the management, the consistency with everything, whether it's pick your kids up from the cafeteria or let them walk, simple little things that add up to be something really big. It wasn't there. And so if you don't have it, if your school doesn't have it together, structure and good leadership and support and everything like that, then the money's not going to be worth it. That's for true. Like you said, all those teachers got all that nice money. Although I'm going to make we did not get that much money, as much money as those other teachers did for coming, and we've proven ourselves.
Yeah.
So that really kind of ticked me off.
And there was a little conflict there between the group that stayed and the new group that got here in terms of why are they getting, was that discussed or not an issue?
I tried to discuss it with our principal last year, and he wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
Just kind of blew me off. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being honest about all that, because it's it's kind of out there, but no, I don't get ever a chance to talk to you guys directly. So it's stuff that I feel, and I start connecting dots, but I never directly talk to anybody. Hey, is this really what you guys are feeling and stuff? Mm-hmm. But I appreciate you in particular sharing that about their teacher retention, because I suspected that that's why they were leaving, and it's validated by research, but it could be other stuff, so I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, so in terms of, I have a sense of your class 19 kids, four proficient, so majority of kids are low learners, low achievers, 50-50 mix in terms of demographics, Black and Mexican. Majority girls, weird year, crazy, not the worst, not the best, somewhere in the middle. Okay, that gives me a good sense. Okay, so tell me about the lesson I'm going to come to observe next week. I understand we're kind of sandwiched in between the pre-vacation, spring break, then we're back, this week we're back, and then there's start testing, and there's all this drama going on. So I know, and I know that's the context that I'm going to be observing you in, so I just want to make sure that I acknowledge that and I'm aware of it. So, but I know that you were planning ahead and stuff like that. So in terms of next week, if I was to come in like Thursday or Friday, period 3, what standards are you going to be covering?
Everything.
Is right now review time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, we test on Tuesday, the 29th. So on Wednesday they test.
Okay.
Yeah, next week.
Okay.
And so Wednesday they're testing for reading. So Thursday and Friday, they're done. They're not wanting to work on Thursday and Friday. But we are still going to review, because as 8th graders they get 3 chances to take this test and pass. But we will not know who passed until April 19th. So I'm gonna take it as nobody has passed yet, and we are still gonna continue to review
Yeah.
and just spiral through everything that we've done, and I'm planning to do that with stations
Okay.
and partners.
So it's games, and you're gonna try to
Not necessarily games,
Okay.
just like different questions.
Okay.
So I could have like a graph and asking them, what is the slope or something like
Right.
that.
Okay.
And just different, so it'll be slope, like real numbers, solving equations, matching word problems, stuff like that is what you're going to be seeing in different stations.
Okay, so before I get into, I got ahead of myself again. I did this with Ms. Campbell too. I get ahead of myself. So with the objectives and standards, and I get it. So it's review, spiral review. But tell me what you're thinking or what's on your mind about like of the standards you're going to be reviewing with them. Are there like some key essential standards, power standards that you know that if you can get them to be proficient in those in that area, they'll get 60% of the test? The odds of passing the test go up. Is there what's on your mind in terms of what you're gonna the spiral review standards you're gonna be covering?
I can't I'm looking right there because I've got my categories. I know I don't know like 8.6D. I can't tell you like that.
Yeah, it's okay.
But in terms of geometry, like volume, surface area, Pythagorean theorem. Also, slope is huge on the test.
But it's Math 8. Math 8 doesn't have geometry, does it? Does Math 8 have geometry? So it's beginning geometry in Math 8?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, no, because even in like 6th grade, I remember them having it. It's like volume and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, those are like the big, major, heavily tested objectives that are going to be there, and that's what we've been focusing on this week and last week, the past couple of weeks. And I'm going to continue to hit those. Okay,
got it. All right, so one more question about the standards and objectives. Do you guys, either your leadership or you guys within a department, do you have a chart in terms of your essential standards and the number of questions and the type of questions? So you're very, very strategic about exactly where you're putting your energy and the types of questions that it's seen so that the kids are seeing. Tell me about that. So little bit of your questions will be in that format that they're going to be seeing it on the test?
Yes. And a lot of it, like we've already seen, through district assessments, CFAs, we know, like, for example, for volume, they can ask, okay, there's one working backwards, meaning, like, if I give you the volume of, like, a cylinder, I need you to give me the height. And so they've got to be able to work backwards and use that formula. Or if we said it's only 3/4 full, so how much can this Bubba from this cylindrical container hold if it's 3/4 full or whatever it is? And so the partial is what another thing that they mess up on because they don't read. It drives me crazy.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing.
A lot of the questions are word problems.
Yes, I told them this is a reading test with numbers, and that's exactly what it is.
Do you think that maybe that's part of the gap between their performance on these assessments, and this group in particular, only 4 kids passed, but yet you're seeing them answering questions and verbalizing and how smart they are and how they have the skills to answer these? Do you think that the literacy is the gap, or is it something else?
I think it can be, but I also think it's something else. I was a 7th grade teacher last year. I've had these kids all 3 years, and I can tell you that last year was terrible. As a 7th grade teacher, us 3 teachers, we did not collaborate. Of course, the other 2 teachers are gone. It was terrible. It was just basically me and my kids, and I was working 2 jobs, and I honestly, this is terrible, but I gave all I could, and it wasn't enough because it wasn't like good, solid, like it was in 6th grade. And so, and there was just so, like, she had a baby, so she was out, and it was gone even after her baby a lot. We had issues with her. It was just a big mess. It was terrible. So I think us 3 7th grade math teachers, we failed our kids. Because as 6th graders, we rocked it out. They rocked it out. They did so great.
You guys had a 20% increase on the STAR the year before. Same group of kids.
Same group of kids. And they came to us, and we screwed those poor kids.
And you guys
out.
all moved up? All 3 of you moved up with your group?
No,
just you. Okay.
And so then.
But you lost your team. So
I lost my team.
You didn't have a tight team, and that totally affected your teaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just because, when you work in a team, not only can you just bounce ideas off of each other, collaborating, but if I'm slacking, I've got issues or whatever else, we're able to back each other up.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So it was like we slacked, and it
Sure.
shows, because these
Yeah.
kids shouldn't be right here. These are
Yeah.
good kids. These are good kids.
A
And
lot
so-
of the faces you see here, the names you see here, were they the same kids you personally taught as sixth graders? What percentage would you say were kids that you personally taught from that group of 19 there or 18?
I would say at least 50-60%.
50-60%.
Because some of them I hadn't had, and some of them are new to Dunbar. So
So
yeah,
about
there's
half of them.
about half of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and they are, I mean, they can do this, and I'm excited. And I think another thing that's going to help is they get to use a calculator this year. So, these past couple of years, you can multiply and divide decimals, you can do things like that, but you don't need to worry about that because you have a calculator that's
You
going
can
to help
get
you.
past the basic skills and
Focus
really
on the
work on it.
concept.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, that's great. Okay, so question 4 is about the activities and the materials you're going to use next week. Have you thought about exactly? You mentioned briefly some thoughts, but can you go into detail on what sort of activities you're going to, and how are you going to assess whether those activities are successful?
Yeah, I've got some cards already. I need to go back and look at them. But just like I said, I mean, I can show you an example. Do you want
No,
that?
just tell me. That's
Okay,
good. Yeah.
so yeah, just like the word problems and having them solve those, or giving them graphs or tables, different things like that, and having them just answer various questions. And usually how I do stations, I mean, they're just going to be rotating,
Okay.
but a handheld. We've got our handhelds, and so I
Okay.
use those all
You
the
can
time.
measure, you can check for understanding based on
Yes.
the responses.
Right, so they'll just submit their answers on the handheld. I'll give them a recording sheet so they can do their work.
Okay.
And I do, my expectations are you will show your work. I need your roadmaps, which are the formulas.
Okay.
Call them roadmaps, to help you, and all of that work is expected to be on there.
Okay.
And
And
then,
it's individual work or one page per team?
Everybody has their own
Okay.
individual. So
Gotcha.
everybody's working, everybody's writing. You have a partner to help guide you because you're not going to ask me. I'm not available until afterwards.
You
And-
purposely don't want them to rely on the teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I've done really bad at babying them.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. So anyway,
Good.
um,
You're creating a little bit of a stressful situation for them to get them ready for a bigger stressful situation for them in a week or whenever they take the test. Okay.
and
That's-
so then they'll submit their answers on the handheld.
Tell me about the submitting the answers and what do you do with that information whether they get it wrong? They're all groups are submitting at the same time, and how do you gauge? And
Okay, so after we go through all the stations, they're gonna go back, I'll send them the document, they'll type in all their answers, and they'll send me the whole document, and I'm able to go through and view, it'll show me everybody's responses. So I can see, okay, Bobby got this wrong, or, whatever, I can see exactly who got it right, who got it wrong, and it'll let me know, say everybody in the class got it right, but one person got it wrong, well, I don't need to waste my time going over it with everybody.
majority.
I can just talk to that one kid.
Gotcha. And will that change your instruction on the fly? Will you
Oh,
use
yeah.
that right then and there? And you'll go, wait a minute, let's stop. Let's go back and try this again. You
Yes.
actually use the data that way?
Yes.
Good stuff. Okay. All right. Tell me about questioning. There's different types of questions. There's low level recall kind of questions, comprehension questions, and there's more critical thinking type of questions. Have you thought about the kinds of questions you'll be asking, or is it all going to be in writing? It's going to be, are you just
Everything is on the fly. It's
Everything
based
is
on
on-
their responses. That's how I always do that. It was hard for me whenever we used this pop cycle, or whatever
right.
it's called. When we used it here, it was hard for us because we were required to write down all these questions, and I'm like, I can say I'm going to ask these things, but I don't know that
when
it's
you're in the
gonna
moment,
happen.
you
Yeah.
forget, and
You
'cause
forget,
you're
and
afraid.
it just depends on each class.
Sure.
You've got some really high kids,
Sure.
or my first and second period, they're a whole bunch of struggling learners, so they're not gonna be able to. I'm not gonna ask them the same level of questioning as I would my fifth
Yeah.
and sixth period, who's pretty top notch.
Right. So tell me about that. Now you're talking about scaffolding, right? You're talking
Mhm.
about different ranges of kids, and there's different needs, right? And so you have to adjust what you say and how you ask the questions and the type of activities based on their level. So give me some, what types of scaffolding things have you used in the past, or are you thinking maybe you'd use on the fly when you're with the group doing your spiral review? What kinds of things?
Something I've done, I don't even know if this is scaffolding. It just basically, even with the quick polls, of them being able to answer, I'll do like a quick fist to 5. Do you understand this? Do you not? And if I'm like, okay, 3 and under, come back over here. Everybody else, you guys can continue on this one, and then I'll come and help them,
Sure.
the lower, or the people who are struggling.
Right. But they're all
Is that
rotating.
scaffolding?
Well, that's more checking for understanding, right? But then you're
But if
using
I
the
pull
data. You're using the data to then
Mhm.
modify your instruction, right?
Mhm.
Now, when you're modifying your instruction, that's scaffolding because you're giving different kids. You're sort of using different strategies based on their needs. So that's a little bit. I would say that's scaffolding.
Mhm.
So, the other thing too is that you're talking about groups,
Mhm.
and that's the very first kind of, in my mind, that's a first level scaffolding because what you're doing is you're being strategic. Sometimes you're strategic in terms of personalities, and sometimes you're being strategic in terms of levels. In talking to Ms. Campbell, she was mentioning, most of my energy goes into being smart about who I partner, because she's doing some partnering activities and stuff, and she mainly focuses on personalities because it's the behavior. It's like, I can't put this kid with this kid,
Yeah.
and I gotta know who likes who, and otherwise it's gonna be a mess. How much energy do you put into that? And is that, I would say that's, if you don't do that up front and put low level learners with high level or people that like each other together, you're gonna have probably problems on your hands. So
Mhm.
I kind of believe that that's a little bit of scaffolding, although it's not the technical, not in the perfect technical sense. But what are your thoughts about the groups? Are you gonna put them in groups? Have you thought about personalities or high levels, low levels?
Sometimes I do that. It honestly just depends on the class. So like my first and second period, again, like they're lower level. A bunch of boys are in that class.
Yeah.
And so what I have to do to motivate them is I'm like, okay, look, you can choose your partner, but if you don't follow my expectations, then know that O room is gonna be the result. And so that usually helps. And it does help too because, like she said, their personalities and whatnot, they're buddies, and they will work.
Sure.
Sometimes, occasionally, I have a couple of people who can't get right.
Sure.
And so as soon as they see their little name with the check, then they know, okay,
Sure.
I'm good, I'll behave.
Sure.
So there's
So-
that, but like with my other classes, like the third and fourth period that you're going to come and see, with them, I can usually pick, like just by personalities, but
Yeah.
their personalities too, they're kind of on the same level.
So they all kind of get along. There's not a lot of conflict in the group.
No, not a lot, no.
Okay. So are you strategic in terms of high and low levels, especially in groups like that? Or are you not
Fifth and
worried
sixth,
about?
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Fifth and sixth period, yes. I do that some more. Like I pair them. I have done high and low, and that kind of works. But the problem is that I've come across is like the high ones get annoyed with the lower ones because they want somebody who can actually help them and not just them doing all the work, or And so I've kind of strayed away from that because I've seen their frustration, and I would be
Mhm.
frustrated too.
They feel like they're being held back because they're.
Yeah, or just that like it's not fair because so and so, like say you two are on the
Oh,
same
gotcha, what
level,
you're saying.
you guys can help each other and work together. Whereas if I'm slow and you're smart, you're doing all the work. Well, they want somebody to help them because they're struggling. They might
Yeah.
be struggling too on that one,
Right.
and their partner can't help them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Do you plan to assess the lesson objective? Is there like going to be an exit ticket or something at the end of this that is going to give you a sense of whether this was successful, or are you just going to base it on something else? That document that they're
yeah.
turning into you, right at the end?
That's what I was going to use to assess.
Yeah, that's your exit ticket, right?
Yes.
And will that determine what you do with other groups or with that group in the future? If it, like you've done, I imagine you've done this exercise with them before.
Mhm.
So you're already anticipating what you're going to get, what the
Mhm.
product's going to be.
Well, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be doing it if you didn't think it'd be helpful.
Right.
So and so I imagine that whatever they turn into you, are you gonna use it in any way outside of, or are you just gonna kind of spot check it?
No, I use it so that way I know, okay, look, these kids still cannot read. So I need to have more application problems with volume and surface area.
Gotcha.
Like that's what I use it to focus on. Or dang, they
Okay.
forgot about real numbers. So they didn't do very well today, so maybe tomorrow in a warm up, I'm going to include some stuff about real
Gotcha.
numbers to see how well did you
Gotcha.
learn from your mistakes
Yeah.
when we talked about it.
Because
in
there's
class.
times then it sounds like there's times when you think that they got something, but that tells you they really didn't.
Right.
And so you use that to then inform your instruction for at least your warm up in the future
warm up
lesson.
or even the instruction.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. How are we going to assess, or how are you going to assess the success or failure of that lesson? Because it's not really a formative assessment, although there's an exit ticket. You're just going to, it won't be quantified. There's not going to be a number to it. You know, it could be that one group did really well and one.
There's going to be a number though.
There is going to be a number?
There will be an official grade, and that's the great thing about the handhelds is it grades it for you. So, like, say I have 6 stations.
Gotcha.
The 6 questions will be up here, and it'll just calculate the percentage, and so I'll get to see
Okay.
the
So
class
based
average
on,
and individual.
oh, beautiful. Is there a certain class average you're looking for that you're expecting them to?
Yeah, we
Okay.
usually set goals.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, this is pretty easy, and I can kind of gauge it based on how my first and second period did. That's how I gauge like all of them. Like, you should be better than this and better than that. And now I'm always like trying to have them compete between the classes.
Good.
And even with Miss Thomas's class.
Uh-huh.
But
Good.
and it motivates our
It
first
does.
and second
The
period.
kids like it.
They do.
They
They
get-
loved it.
yeah.
Okay, because like our warm ups,
Yeah.
first and
I
second
did
period
that.
this week, I'm like, this is what my kids did, and she's like, this is what
Good.
my kids did. And so this
Good.
one day, her kids
Yeah.
came up in here and like, you know, flipping their hair and stuff, like we did better and da da da
Yeah.
da. So then my kids, whenever they found out,
Yeah.
the next day they did better than them. So here we go down to her classroom talking crap to
Cool.
them.
That's very cool.
So
You know, it's
it
funny you
motivates
bring
them.
this up because I believe this my entire life. Like, we don't in schools, we shy away from competition, and I think that's a huge mistake. These kids love it. There's a wrong way. You know, you could get nasty,
Yeah.
or you can gloat over people and make them feel bad. And then there's a right way where that gets them excited, and it's
Yeah.
this group versus, or boys versus girls, or so that's cool to hear that you guys, that you're incorporating that. Well, I'm done.
Oh,
You're done.
done.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.